Alexa, how many downloads for Jim and Bill, It's Another Day podcast?
From Adweek.com. Today, the podcast show has fetched 400 million downloads since its start, and an average of 350,000 downloads per episode, about 3.9 million downloads per week, according to the publisher.
Well, what do you know? There's a lot of you out there listening, and we appreciate it. Don't forget to spread the word. Like and share Jim and Bill, It's Another Day. And once again, thanks for listening. Well, hello there. It's a weekend update. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Well, it's the weekend and lots of weird stuff going on. There's been a lot of...
Are you concerned at all about the fact that President Trump is going to be speaking in front of a crowd in Atlanta tonight? I'm a little concerned about that. He goes into the heart of the beast. Now, Atlanta supposedly is not a friendly locale for him, but he's determined to not be deterred, and he's going to be speaking tonight. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's a good idea? I know he went to, he spoke in the Bronx, and it was a huge success, but, it's only been 3 weeks today, since the assassination attempt.
Yeah, and I think there will be another attempt. They're going to keep trying until they get him, and, how much of the media that people get their news from do you think is conservative? Not talking about ratings. I'm talking about the number of conservative versus liberal outlets.
Maybe 3 or 4% of the media.
Okay, so 97% of what goes out there to the public to consume, whether you're conservative or liberal, is liberal propaganda.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty good figure, yeah.
All right. With that said, and looking at all the news out there, and not just things that are news, but they'll take things, and there's the bot ads, and then there's Kamala's doing so well, she's such a great person. All of that stuff, every media source, 97%, has probably 97% of their news being Kamala, Kamala, Kamala. What a great person she is.
Oh, sure.
She was the dirge 6 months ago, but now she's the anointed one. So I'm sitting there going, would you believe, and the number is growing. Now, it does speak volumes that the number that I'm going to give you, 34%, is not bigger, but it is a growing number. 34% of Democrats believe that Trump faked the whole thing.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. It does not surprise me. And Bill, it goes back to what person in their right mind would even attempt to fake an assassination attempt? Nobody. This is nonsense. Go ahead.
It is nonsense. And then you see that Democrats now have been caught in at least 9 states. When I say at least 9 states, 9 states for sure, that they have fake voter registration.
Yeah.
No, they've been caught red-handed. And we're not only talking Washington, D.C., but let's see here if I can find my notes.
Atlanta, Georgia. I mean, Georgia's, they've got whole areas that are, they're residential areas for illegals who have been registered to vote.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you've got Illinois, Michigan, you've got Pennsylvania, you've got Georgia, you got South Carolina, you got Florida. Now, Florida, from people that I know, are saying, it's supposed to be a red state, but right now it's looking like that they've got the election set up there to make it a blue state.
I don't know how they're going to do that, and the only way they can do that, Bill, is to do it illegally,
Well, PA, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, Iowa, Illinois, Michigan, PA, and of course...
Hey, how about that story last week? We just talked about this a couple of days ago. They're already priming the people of Pennsylvania, and they're telling them it's going to take at least 2 days to tabulate the votes. Again, 2 days.
There's something wrong with our election system. There is definitely something wrong with our media because it is no longer the people's media. It is the state's media. Plain, simple like that. And we've got a problem, and it's a big problem. And the one thing that I was looking at demographics too, of who's likely to vote where. Mm-hmm. And let's just say, for argument's sake, 35 to 50, we'll say that's predominantly going to the liberal side. So 50 and above actually is probably about 44 and above are going to be the conservative vote. But when you look at the numbers in the breakout, drastically, the younger population has grown exponentially in the past couple of years, and yet we are producing less people, offspring. So that's kind of interesting to me. Now,
here's the thing that gets me, Bill. Here's the thing. Kamala, historically, in her past elections, she always starts out with a flourish. And people are like, oh, man, she looks really interesting. And the longer she's on the scene, the more she talks, the more people realize she's an empty pantsuit, okay? And look what happened in her previous presidential run. She didn't even make it to a primary. That's why, by the way, I think they inserted her this time around. People forget that not a vote was tabulated in her favor because she wasn't selected. She was selected, not voted.
Mm-hmm. And that was the point that I was going to make, is that she's been inserted. There was not one single vote cast for her. And now she is the presumptive nominee, which is probably why Trump said, I'm going to debate her coming up on September 4th. It'll be live in Fox News. I'm not comfortable with that because Kamala is going to be scripted. She's going to have every cheat in place to do things. But Trump is a good, if he
Bill,
sees what
you
they're
just
doing.
told me something I didn't realize. I missed that, and I've been following the news. But you say that they've actually set a firm date.
September 4th, he agreed to it.
Excellent.
He agreed yesterday.
On Fox News. Very good. I missed that.
Yeah, no, that is going. No, I pay attention to the news.
Good.
I pay attention to demographics. I pay attention to the ethnicity of the United States. I mentioned a story the other day where they were talking about the World Economic Forum wants to eliminate 1 billion American citizens. Well,
by 2025 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, guess what? It was nice knowing you, but I guess you and I are biting the bullet because there's only 196 million white people in the United States.
Are you saying put a fork in it? We're done?
Yes. If that number holds true, 196 million white folk in the United States are gone. That's the entire white population. And yet that means there's over 800,000 more people around the world that are going to bite the bullet thanks to the World Economic Forum. I mean, come on, that's a death warrant on us.
Well, I want to play a few things, some audio clips. First of all, something interesting happened. I don't know whether you heard about this, but a Chinese national was arrested after multiple attempts to breach the security at Mar-a-Lago, the private club owned by President Trump. The suspect, Xi Li, 38, of El Monte, California, claimed to possess documents implicating the Chinese government in a recent assassination attempt on Trump. A local TV station reported that Li first attempted to enter Mar-a-Lago on July 19th around 8 p.m. driving a Toyota Prius. Secret Service agents stopped him at the main gate. Li alleged he had critical information connecting China to an assassination attempt on the former president and insisted on handing over the documents. However, listen to this. The Secret Service informed him that he was trespassing and prohibited him from leaving any materials. And, so that's not the end of the story. Listen, this is from Fox.
Now, a week after that, on July 30th at 10 a.m., Lee drove past Secret Service checkpoints and straight towards the estate's southern gate. Now, in violation of the trespassing warning, he was arrested. It's important to note Trump was not at Mar-a-Lago that day. A judge did give Lee a no-contact order for former President Trump and anyone associated with him or his campaign. He's not the first Chinese citizen to face charges, though, for trying to gain access to Mar-a-Lago. A woman was arrested in 2019 after the Secret Service said she lied to get into the club. The former President Trump, he does split his time between New Jersey and Palm Beach during this summer. He's not here right now, but is expected to return Saturday after traveling to Atlanta for a campaign rally with J.D. Vance. As for Lee, Palm Beach County court records do show that he is still sitting in jail, Brett, on a $10,000 bond. He's expected to be in court on Monday, so of course we're hoping to get a little bit more insight on this whole interaction here.
Okay, wait a second. Here's what I don't understand, okay? If someone came up to the gate at Mar-a-Lago and he said, I have information on the assassination of President Trump, I have it, and I want to give it to somebody in authority, what would the first thing you would think they would do is they would take him aside and look at the information. But they didn't. They sent him on his way with it.
Look, it's in the news now. Trump probably knows of this story. Trump should send his team over there and say, we want those documents. They were intended for us. We want them. We want them now. And go get an audience with that guy and get it back to Trump. And
right.
I damn well bet you that they're not going to be allowed to get the documents. They're not going to be allowed to talk to the guy. This is a cover-up. And, you know, when you talk about China and, you know, maybe having involvement, you look at all the money that came to Kamala. It came through Act Blue, and she seized the Biden campaign money right away without authority. That was presumptively illegal, but they'll find a way to dance around that. But donations have been coming in through Act Blue that are of Chinese significance. What the hell are they doing in our election?
There was another press conference yesterday with the Secret Service, the acting director. It was another dance. It was another cover your derriere. He evaded all the serious questions, gave non-answers to questions he just didn't want to answer. And he did it with the guise of trying to cooperate. You know, they have this mannerism like, I'm here and I'm trying to help you out and get the word to the public as to what we're doing and what really happened. But then they give you nothing, okay? They give you absolutely nothing. We still don't know why he flew a drone over the fairgrounds. We don't know how he had a rangefinder there and nobody stopped him. Yeah, we don't know how he climbed up on the roof and walked around without being stopped. I mean, the video that we have from one of the victims, the gentleman who was shot in the abdomen, the video that came out this week shows the back of President Trump, and you see the building that guy is on, and you see him plain as day walking along on that roof. Now, there should be nobody on that roof. And if you were really protecting the President of the United States or the former President of the United States, that roof would be off limits to everybody. But there he is. He might as well have been doing a dance on that roof because nobody seemed to pay him one iota of attention. But Dan Bongino, and I want to play this for our audience now. It's a little long, but it's a Saturday show, and we can do this. It's from his latest podcast. I think it was yesterday's show. You got to listen to this, folks. It is something. Dan was a Secret Service agent who was a Secret Service agent for 12 years. And he even says in this clip that I'm going to play, you know, it took a lot for him to resign from the Secret Service. He gave up his pension. He gave up, you know, all of the bennies that go along with being a government employee with 12 years experience because he knew that they weren't being forthright and above board. I'm going to play for you this cut, and it talks about a situation he had. He was in the Secret Service back, I think he got into the Secret Service like in 1998, 97, 98. And in 2004 or 5, he and another agent were missioned to go to Moscow and to spend some time in Moscow because they had kicked out the resident Secret Service agent for political purposes, not for any real reason, but they were allowing temps to come in and rotate into the Moscow office, and he was a temp. And here's the story. Dan Bongino from his latest podcast.
I was sent over as a temp. I was there a little over a month because the guy there before, a guy by the name of Charlie, I'll leave last names out of it. A guy by the name of Charlie was what they call PNG'd, persona non grata, meaning the Russians kicked him out of the country. It's a long story as to why, but it was a retaliatory measure for something the United States did to a Russian here. Because the Russians, they never do what they're telling you. This is why I love when people tell me about Russia. I don't know. I've been there twice. I know a lot about Russia, probably more than most journalists. The Russians do things they can put in the paper to make it look like they're sticking it to the United States. Because we have the name the Secret Service, even though there's nothing secret about us, it's a protection agency, they knew the average Russian citizen would think we were like spies, like the CIA. So instead of kicking out the FBI that actually does intelligence overseas, what they did is they kicked out the Secret Service guy, Charlie. Because they could put Secret Service, everybody, oh my gosh, we kicked the spy out. You get it? The Russians, though, however, didn't want to burn their relationship with the United States, so they said, tell you what, we're going to wink and nod and kick your permanent guy out, this guy Charlie, who was the boss over there, but we're going to let you rotate agents in. I was the second group of agents that got rotated in. It was 2 people at a time. Here's where the story gets bananas. You guys don't know this, right? I never told you this? The guy I got sent over with to work the Russia office in Moscow in our embassy for a good amount of time is now the boss of Donald Trump's detail. Does this whole story make sense now? I've known this guy 20 years. It's the same guy. Let's call him Jack. It's the same guy. So when me and him were in Moscow, we noticed something interesting. I'm going to ask you to put that piece up again in a second. The Secret Service had hired an FSN. FSN is short for a Foreign Service National. Her name was Anna. That's her real name. Well, that's what she told us her real name was. I'm not going to mention her last name because it doesn't really matter, but her name was Anna. And from the first night, let's just call this other agent I was with Jack. From the first night, we realized that Anna was very, very suspicious and odd. Anna would ask a lot of questions, totally inappropriate for someone hired as basically an administrative assistant. And we noticed that Anna had a really unusual interest in a lot of what the Secret Service did. Ladies and gentlemen, we noticed this on day one. So this other agent and I, Jack, we started talking to each other and we said, this is kind of a problem. By the end of the first week, we knew absolutely that this woman was probably a spy. We would go and meet with the Russian FSB, the former KGB, and they would know her right away. Oh, hey, Anna, how are you? And we would look at each other like, but I mean like know her. I don't mean like, hey, did we meet? I mean like, oh, hey, how are you? Couldn't have been more obvious. The woman was up to no good. So this other agent, Jack, and I, who's now running Donald Trump's detail, by the way, he was smart. Known this guy a long time. He said, I think we should do the right thing and notify Secret Service headquarters. I said, you're damn right. That's what we're going to do. So that's exactly what we did. We sent emails back saying, listen, the gist of it is you got a freaking spy in here. We took all of our manuals and everything else, and we put them up on a different floor, let's say, in the embassy to make sure she couldn't see them. But she had access to them the whole time. Manuals, like protection manuals and everything else. We sent that email thinking they would get back to us, to management, and be like, oh my gosh, great job, guys. Like farming out a spy here. Like, you know, fishing out a spy, right? That's not the response we got at all. The response we got was basically, how do I say this? Like, you guys should probably shut your pie holes and never mention this again, which we were like, no, when we sent back another email. Now we're... Put up that article again. Notice the date on this article, August 2nd, 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't pinpoint the exact time I was there. Forgive me, I just don't remember. But I'm telling you, it was around 2004, 2005. Dan, this article's from 2018, 15 years later. 14 years later. What? You're saying you sent an email with your guy and it took them 14 years to figure it out? Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. And notice the Secret Service's statement 14 years later. Their statement is, at no time in any Secret Service office have FSNs like Anna, Foreign Service Nationals, been provided or placed in a position to obtain national security information. Right. The State Department said it wouldn't comment on allegations related to intel or personal matters, and we have no information for you on this alleged incident. Really? You sure about that? I'm willing to testify under oath that that statement is fake. I would guarantee you so is Jack, because Jack has the email, by the way. You know why the Secret Service didn't do anything? Because the Secret Service management culture, which I've been writing about, giving interviews about, one of the reasons I resigned my job and gave up this glorious government pension and benefits and everything, I had no job after that, was precisely because I wasn't going to be a part of this broken culture anymore. The Secret Service cares about one thing. CYA, CTA, covering their asses. And they care about another thing, luck. The Secret Service has been lucky for probably 30 years. They didn't get luck. Well, not even 30 years, because George Bush had a grenade thrown at him in Tbilisi, Georgia. And again, that changed things for about 2 weeks, too. Folks, the Secret Service can't continue to exist. They haven't like it is now. They have a totally broken management culture. There are people out there who have been whistleblowing on this forever, and absolutely nothing has changed. That story in The Guardian, it's about me, and I'm willing to testify under oath to anybody who wants to hear it. I was there, I saw it, we called it out, and the Secret Service did absolutely nothing. I'm going to tell you how I found out about this story, by the way. When this happened, I was in New York. I was getting ready to take a trip with Sean Hannity up to Pete Hegseth's wedding in New Jersey. True story. Evita's mom was there. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I got a call from Jack, who said, "Hey, man, you remember Anna?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I remember Anna." He said, "Read this article." And it was this article right here. Suspected Russian spy found working at U.S. Embassy in Moscow. You're telling me these same people, who, by the way, some of these same people are still around, you're telling me they're going to fix this place? Folks, even the New York Times is in on the story about the broken Secret Service now. This place cannot be fixed as is. Someone is going to die. It's not your Secret Service, it's ours, the taxpayers.
Dan Bongino, and that's from his latest podcast. I would recommend you hear the whole thing because it's like 50 minutes long. But that's just a piece, a good piece of a story that it doesn't really surprise me, especially after I've seen how they've handled the assassination attempt on President Trump. I mean, they still evade the issue. Bill, it has been 3 weeks, and we should have had a press briefing like the very first day, a day after it happened. We should have had the press there and an honest update, and they danced, and they obfuscated, and they tried to evade the issue, and they made it so obvious that they didn't want to tell us what was going on. And now here it is 3 weeks later, And, okay, they've got a new acting director now, but he was the deputy director when the other director was in office, and he was part of the problem. By the way, Dan Bongino knows this guy, Rob Rowe, the
Right.
acting director, and he doesn't have a lot of good things to say about him. So here, Bill, I don't feel comfortable with them protecting, President Trump.
Well, what I'm thinking and what I probably will lay out in the show, because I don't have everything in front of me, but I have enough to at least get the thought processing start. You may not feel comfortable for Trump's safety, but what I'm seeing and what I'm smelling is something that's uncomfortable for you, me, our family, and the future generations and the end of America. Let's put it that way.
Well, I mean,
Because-
I've heard stuff like that too. I have.
Well, is Kamala an idiot with word salads, or is she a smart person that's very conniving and she's baiting us with stuff?
I think she is an operative. Okay, I think she's
All
an
right.
operative. I don't know who she. All I know is that her name is appropriate. She's very much like a chameleon. She will adjust
Or a
to
commie.
any situation. She will. She'll say whatever has to be said for the moment.
Well, her dad was a Marxist. It's
Right.
known. We're not fibbing, making that up, or leaning into. They may erase that from history, but right now, Mama and Daddy are communists. They are communist. I should say Marxist. They are Marxist, known Marxist. And you look at some of the things she said, like everybody makes fun of. You think you just fell out of the coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you. Now, that's very important because,
What the heck is she talking about?
well, let's go to Karl Marx. The tradition of all dead generations weigh like a nightmare on the brains of the living. Unencumbered by whatever it is from the past with the possibilities of the future.
That's a Communist Manifesto statement. Yes.
Yeah, and if you look at every damn one of her little things, it is all about forgetting the past. Let's go into this rosy, socialistic, communistic future. And that's what these are. These word salads are just nothing more than mind washing. She gets them out there, she cackles, makes it sound all fun, and we're making fun of it. And then all of a sudden it sinks into our memories. It's part of it. We're brainwashed. So then we can go, like she's going, forget about the debt. When I get in, we're gonna get rid of her. We're gonna do all these great things. There's gonna be this for everybody. Even back in 2020, she was talking about coming in with Joe. Is that we're all gonna have the same share of everything. Basically, is what she said.
Look who
She's a
embraces.
communist. She's a Marxist.
Look who embraces her. Barack embraces her because she actually takes what Barack stood for to the next level.
Well, speaking of Barack, she has now done a shift in her campaigning. She is now consulting with, and they're adopting his campaign strategies. He is now calling the shots on the campaign going forward.
Interesting thing here. This was supposedly a misspeak by Joe yesterday as he was at the airport. I'm going to play it for you, and then we'll talk about what he said. Listen.
I'm still you're stuck with me as president for a while, kid. There's no way out, okay? You got me for at least another 100 or 90 days or so.
He says to the press, it was hard to hear, "You're stuck with me as president for a while, kid. There's no way out. You got me for at least 90 days or so." Well, he's got 5 more months, folks. 5 more months. So the question is he going to step down and let Kamala step in for a couple of months? Is that the plan?
When the election happens, yeah, they got the deal in place. He feels confident she's going to get in. He's got his deal to glide out of here and slip into oblivion. I got news for you, Joe. I'd watch my back if I were you, if you're still alive, because you're in a party that is dismantling the United States, and the United States that you know and love is all over. And for our Christian friends out there, now I sent you something on, that John Rich, and I believe it was Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
And I'll just briefly go through it. A lot of people, I grew up, Baptist. And
Candace Owen.
Candace Owen. Yeah, her podcast. And it's true, because I have one upstairs, a Schofield Bible.
Yeah.
Well, what's that? It's the Bible that has all the little reference points.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those go back to the 1800s, to a guy that sat there and did this. Very good friends with Rockefeller.
No, Rothschilds.
That's it, Rothschilds. Yes. Good friends with the Rothschilds. But either way, what they've done with this is they've changed a few things. Like a very good friend of mine that I helped get into the business as a sub for Sean Hannity said, I worry about everything, but I don't have to worry because we got the rapture, because God's going to lift us up and take us out of here before all gets bad. Well, that's a Schofield Bibleism. It's the simple fact is, it's all hands on deck. You are going to have to go through a lot of hell before you get to the rapture. So if you're going, not going to vote, not going to worry about it, let it just happen, you better vote, because otherwise, you're shortening you're shortening the execution of the world. You have to vote. They're counting on you not voting. You got to get out and vote, because
when you listen to this, you think, wait a second, this sounds almost like the plot for a sinister movie. But in reality, folks, a lot of this stuff we believe is really happening. It's really out there. I mean, it's hard to imagine that the world can be so sinister, but it is. We talked about that guy trying to get into Mar-a-Lago at the beginning of the podcast, the Chinese guy. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the two illegal Jordanians who tried to breach Quantico back in May?
Yeah.
Do you know that? Do you know that they were arrested, and these were illegals. One came across the border illegally. One overstayed his visa, his student visa. They had a very high bail, and they made it and disappeared. So, I mean, where do these guys who are illegals get tens of thousands of dollars to skip? To skip bail. I'd like to meet the morons who allow them to skip bail. You would think that if these two guys tried to breach Quantico's security, they had something really bad in store, and you would think that they would have no bail.
The other day we mentioned about the clerk that got had the EBT customer and all the money that was on that EBT account. You ought to talk to some store clerks. Maybe they know, maybe they don't. But usually at the register, if somebody has an EBT, they'll sit there and say, well, thank you, you have this much left on your EBT to spend. And it prints on that receipt. So they know it's there on their register, what they have. And it would be interesting for you to find out how many illegals are in your community, because it's not $300, $400, $500 like you might see somebody on welfare. We're talking of tens of thousands of dollars that these people have. I mean, we're talking like 20 grand minimum that the illegals have that are right here around us. It's just kind of baffling and scary what's going on, and they're infiltrating. And Arizona just overturned a law that was made into effect after the last election debacle, and they said, no, we're lifting that. You do not have to be prove citizenship to register to vote in the upcoming election.
Amazing.
So Arizona is going to go blue again.
So let's think about what's going on here for a second, folks. Just stop for a second and think where we're at, okay? Most of us would like to believe that we are a country of rules and laws, and that we follow those rules and laws to the T. But the fact of the matter is, there's a culture in our society that ignores all of our rules and laws to benefit themselves. If they find that there are election laws that are interfering with their plans, they just step aside and go around them, or they ignore them altogether. And then when they're brought to task, they go to court, one of their own judges says, dismissed. Don't worry about it. Just go on your merry way. Okay, so we are living in a broken society. I again, the very first story of our show today, we have a Chinese national who's trying desperately to get into Mar-a-Lago to tell somebody in authority that the Chinese want to kill President Trump. And instead of taking this guy in, putting him in a holding area, and reading the information, they send him on his way. What the hell is going on? What the hell is going on? Getting back to the time when the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago, you ever wonder why the Secret Service kind of just let them do it? They didn't stand their ground and say, hey, you don't have jurisdiction here. Get off the property. You're interfering with a security detail. No, they didn't do that. They just stepped aside and let them do whatever they wanted to do. And by the way, Dan Bongino even says in his segment we just aired, he said the FBI did overseas intel, not the Secret Service. That's not in their charter. The FBI is only supposed to be doing domestic intelligence. The CIA is the organization tasked with international spying.
Right. We live in an upside-down world, and I got to wonder if we've gone too far to fix. And the reason I say that, you had Obama, and I'm not going to sit there. Some people think he was the greatest thing because he made all these Marxists promised of all the green grass on the other side of the fence, and it's never worked anywhere else. But he's put judges in place. He's done a lot of that. Joe Biden has too. They say, well, Trump put so many judges. Nothing in comparison to what they have done. And when you look at the whole, they pretty much control the majority of the entire system. Are we going to have to crash and burn for the people to sit there and tear it all down and start all over again? This election, when Trump goes, you won't have to vote again, what he's saying, folks, if we don't get it right, and just because you vote and vote in numbers doesn't mean the election's going to go the right way, but it will be obvious that it was stolen, so obvious you know what you either will or won't have to do. But if you sit there and let this happen, it's done. It's over. And the only thing is going to be left to do when it all goes to hell is to pitch up your pitchforks, because Washington will be burned.
Well,
America will be burned to the ground.
I heard somebody, I'm not going to say who it was, but somebody very knowledgeable, somebody I respect, say, if they had been successful 3 weeks ago and killed President Trump,
it's all over.
There would have been a civil war. He said that at the very least there would have been massive uprisings, but there probably would have been a civil war.
Well,
don't think for 1 second that they're going to stop because they missed the first time around.
Who would win a civil war in this country right now?
Well, the ones, it depends upon who is with who. Okay, I'll tell you, let's say, for example, hypothetically, if and we're just imagining now, okay, let's say, pretend this is a movie. Let's say if there were a civil war and the National Guard went with the people, the state National Guard went with the people. If that's the case, now you have airplanes, you have weapons, you have something of some kind of substance that is on your side. But if it's just you and your hunting rifle, along with a bunch of your friends going up against the U.S. government military, if they're on the other side, it's not going to be a pretty sight. It isn't going to be pretty because they have all the big weaponry and they have the manpower.
Well, let's say for argument's sake, just for a minute, the people are winning this. But every good movie has an evil twist at the end, something you don't expect. Like, let's say China coming to the rescue of the United States to quell the people.
Well, that I guess that's always a possibility. I mean, look at in the Revolutionary War, we had the French. The French sided with the revolutionaries, and they gave them weapons and ships, and they gave them military expertise. So there could be the Chinese stepping to our aid to assist us. But hey,
or to the aid of the.
Well, you might end up having the Russians coming to the aid of the people.
Yeah, that's true. But we've always sat there and said, well, we're isolated. The wars will be fought in Europe. Well, the next war probably is going to be fought on our homeland. And when you see pictures of World War II, beautiful buildings that were bombed out, well, go take a good look at all the monuments around here. Forget about Mount Rushmore. That'll be just blown up to be blown up.
Didn't you talk a little while ago about the fact that they wanted to thin the herd in the United States by 2025?
Yeah, but they want to take 1 billion white people
out. Well, what do you think a civil war would do?
Well, there's only 196 million white people here, and that's of white ethnicity. Now, that doesn't mean, folks, well, I'm Hispanic, I'm black, I'm Indian, I'm safe. No. You're not understanding what's happening. They're going to get it down to whatever they probably want one multicultural race of just one origin, and that's it.
So
and they're going to get it down to a finite number.
If they take out Trump, if they hurt President Trump, you think it's going to be the beginning of a civil war in our country?
Well, my gut would say yes, but then my heart tells me that, how do I put this delicately? A lot of people don't have the stomach for it. They,
well, it's true. We live in a basically a soft society.
Yeah, somebody might say, there's a bunch of wussies out there. That's the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And because we really, I'd rather negotiate than fight, but sometimes there is a time for everything.
But here's what I'm thinking, Bill. I think you're right for the most part, but I think that we live in a country of 335 million people. And let's say hypothetically, just 2.5 million people go to war. 2.5 million out of 335 million. It's a fraction, but it is probably one of the largest army of people in history. 2.5 million people. So that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid, I think most of the people in the country might say, no, I want to play with my video games and I want to watch TV and leave me alone. But if you have a chunk of people, 2.5 or 3 million people who've decided enough is enough and they go to war, then we're in a world of hurt, as they would say, in this country. You have you essentially have one of the largest standing armies in the world fighting against your government.
Well, maybe we're living through the bird song, an old Bible passage of Ecclesiastes, 3, 1 through 8. The turn song. There's a time for everything. And maybe we are at that point for, from love to hate. Because it kind of seems like it's running in style with the exact order of that scripture. A time to be born, a time to die, a time for love, and a time to
Do you remember when the Republicans were having their primaries and how crucial the state's votes were to the candidacy of the person? Meaning, Nikki Haley only has 35 delegates or whatever. I mean, the delegate count was the big thing. It was the crucial thing. Yeah, but then you flip it to the other side, and the media pretends it means nothing. The hell with it. No big deal. She was appointed.
She's got it because they've anointed her. And again, your numbers, my estimation was actually a little bit better. I thought maybe 80. You're saying 97%, and I tend to agree with that. I was just being generous. 97% of the media is all blue all the time, and it's not news, it's propaganda, it's opinions. 97% blue opinions, we're screwed.
You know, J.D. Vance was on a podcast, and he was talking about Kamala, and it's just a short clip, but I want to play it.
They sit on a side and they say, Donald Trump is against democracy. Yeah. But they're also now, they held someone long enough to pass up where they could actually vote for a new kind of like nominee, and then they just picked who they wanted. So there's actually no democracy in that.
Not at all. And 14 million people, look, it's not my party, and I wouldn't have voted for him, but 14 million people voted for him to be the nominee of the Democrat Party.
Yes.
How many people have voted for Kamala Harris to be the nominee of the Democrat Party?
None.
Zero. Right? Yeah. Not a single person. So it's funny, they accuse me and Donald Trump of being threats to democracy. Like, Trump is the most popular person in the party. He still ran through the primary process because that's what you have to do, right? You have to persuade voters that you're the guy. That's kind of how this system works. And basically what happened is Barack Obama, the Clinton family, and a few billionaires got in a room together and said, hey, this guy's political dead weight, let's throw him overboard. And that's really creepy if you think about it, but then you realize he's the president of the United States, and it kind of makes you question, what is the real power center in this country if
unelected
a
officials.
few billionaires and a few unelected officials can throw the president overboard? I think, I've tried to make this argument to Democrats is, look, if you are uncomfortable by how this process shaked out and you feel kind of insulted as a voter, vote for Republicans. You may not agree with us on everything, but at least in our party, we believe you should have to persuade people, not try to run this corrupt process in the background.
Okay, I want to remind people, Bill, of one thing. Not too long ago, like 6 months ago, Barack Obama produced a movie called Leave the World Behind. Okay, and it was about a country, the United States, essentially going to civil war. Was it a movie or was it a message?
Marxist propaganda, unencumbered by the past, leave the world behind. This is Marxism on the march. Now, there was an interesting thing in the news, and the video, you may have seen it. What was the kid named Rittenauer? The kid
Kyle Rittenauer.
Okay. He publicly said, I am not going to vote for Trump because of his Second Amendment stand. I'm going to vote for, what's his name, Ron Paul. Mm-hmm. I'm like going, what an idiot. Because, the Democrats, they stand in unity with their 97% media telling them what to do. We're fighting for democracy. And they're saying, well, you don't have to agree with everything about Kamala, but you need to take a look at what she really stands for and what you think democracy is. Now, is Trump going to take away your guns?
No.
Do you think?
No. But Bill, here's the thing. Bill, to your point, okay? We give too much deference to celebrity. This Kyle Rittenhouse, he went to court when he was 17. So what is he now? 19 or 20?
Yeah.
How much life experience does
knowledge?
Yeah, does he bring to the table? So ignore him.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, we're being divided by little nuances, and you want democracy. You got to forget about your hate for Trump, whatever you believe that he did or didn't do. What does he stand for, the basic core values? Do you agree with them? Because he is the choice for those values. Now, if you want, forget about the past. Let's get this rosy, everybody's equal under Kamala. And I didn't mean to make fun of anybody with that voice, but I'm just, the point is, they're giving us it's a false God. It's
a
not
false
a reality.
Promise. It's a false promise.
It's been made before. Yeah, it sounds rosy. Oh, wow.
Hey,
I get equal share in everything. No, you don't.
Well, let me ask you a question, Bill. If that were the case, do you think that Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates or all of those super rich people are going to give up their wealth so they can be equal with you and I? In this world that they're talking about, will Barack Obama give up all of his toys?
Absolutely not. Now, let me just define this, whether it's Republican or Democrat, because I did the numbers last night, and they're pretty equal. Now, you hear Democrats from Michelle Maddow and or what's her name, whatever, from MSNBC.
Rachel Maddow.
She's up there. Rachel Maddow. Yeah, I always get Michelle and Rachel mixed up. But either way, she's worth $25 million, making fun of Vance, saying he's an elite because he's worth $7 million. No, Rachel, you're worth more than him. But, I looked at the entire Congress on the Democratic side and their net worth, and they're all elites. All right, I looked at the Republicans. Now, up there pretty high on the list is, I forget her name now that everybody hates green. But either way, all the
Marjorie
Republicans.
Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, but her money came from construction, her family, which she took over. She didn't make it in Congress, but all these Congress people came in with little or nothing, and now they're elite. The elitist won't give up anything. It's going to be you and me that's going to get...
When Nancy Pelosi got into office in the late 80s, her value was $150,000. And now she's worth $140 million.
Oh, yeah. They have different numbers. Well, you know what? 3 years ago, it was $50 million. So what happened in 3 years? Those are the elites. So when a Democrat calls the Republicans an elite, well, look at their number. Don't just take their word for it. Look at it. We're the scum that's going to be fighting for equal share. And when you look at that scenario and look at the history, it's not all peaches and cream. And then you have one party ruling. It's
look at January 6th, okay? Anybody who was watching it knows that it wasn't what they're trying to sell us. It wasn't what they're trying to sell us. They're trying to say, and they did say this, that it was the worst thing that happened since 9/11. Gag me. The only tragedy was that the left killed Ashley Babbitt, okay? That young woman didn't deserve to die, and that creep who shot her, and I'm not talking about color here, I'm just talking about creep. That creep should be in jail for murder. I'm sorry, that's a pure, unadulterated fact. But instead, the left promotes him on the job, does an interview with Lester Holt, and basically applauds him for his bravery. He shot an unarmed woman through the glass in a stairwell, and this is how they treat him. Okay? In the meantime, who on the right was hurt during this, quote, rebellion that they talk about? Nobody. And I would submit that there was more rioting and damage last week at Union Station with the left burning flags and attacking police than there was on January 6th. But yet, who's been in jail for 2.5 and 3 years? It's been people who are on the right who were there.
Well, look, before the election happens, buy an American flag, buy a couple of them, fold them and put them away. You're going to need them because those flags are going to be worthless or hard to find if Kamala gets in. If she gets in, it's all over. I think Joe steps down day one of the election. And if they say Kamala won, trust me, you're not going to be able to look and review the numbers or go through the count. They're going to seal it, shut it, lose it.
You just made an interesting point, whether you know it or not. Joe may step down if they rig the election like they think they have planned.
Right.
If they rig it and they insert her into the presidency, she won't be a president-elect. He'll step down on that day.
She'll be the one.
And her presidency will start from day one, from the election. Now, this is where the right has got to overwhelm the system. Now, there's a part of me, Bill, that says that Trump's team and the people behind the scenes with Trump, they all know what's going on. And they have something in place that we're not privy to that is going to stop this. It isn't.
Do you believe that?
I think he's a smart guy.
Or do you hope that?
What do I think? I do think that they have had 4 years to plan on combating the left. And do I think there's a system in place? Absolutely. 100%. I'm one of these, maybe I'm an optimist, But I think the left is concerned because the left really doesn't know what to make of what President Trump and his team are doing. I mean, truly, it's just a matter of look at his rallies. You see, at a Trump rally, 50,000 people. At a Kamala rally, you see 600 people, maybe.
Oh, if
You
that,
know?
67. But the Atlanta thing, they're touting that and showing the pictures and her waving, thank you, with the crowds by the thousands behind her. Well, those crowds were there. They got there early to see two rappers on stage, two rap shows.
Yeah.
And when the shows ended, they got up and they were flooding out because they could give a rat's ass about Kamala, which they should give a rat's ass about.
And now I'm going to ask you the question. I believe that Trump has an answer, but you don't apparently. What do you think?
I think he thinks he's got an answer, but I think there's so much corruptness. Even during his last administration, there were people that were operatives inside his campaign, and the Democrats are pretty damn good at having operatives. And if they got foreign help, which it appears they do, then all bets are off. Trump is depending on you and me to overwhelm the system. It's really up to us.
When the elections happened last time around, a lot of people talked about how the Chinese interfered electronically. A lot of people talked about how they actually had software running overseas that was messing around with our systems. We were told initially that the computer systems, the voting systems, were not connected to the internet. And then we were told later on, well, actually they were, but they weren't messed with. Well, we never got any answers, but I'm hoping that the Trump people have been working for the last 4 years. They did get rid of Ronna Romney McDaniels and put in the two co-chairs in the Republican National Committee. So a lot of things supposedly have changed as far as challenges. They're putting people in place at the different voting places to challenge different people, I also think that there's something else, Bill, that's going on behind the scenes that we're just not privy to.
Well, let me tell you something. Some Republicans that are quiet, the Bushes, where are they? Why aren't they showing their colors?
They would never comment on anything Trump because they hate Trump.
It doesn't matter whether you hate him or...
You forget, this was the ordained time for Jeb. Jeb was the next in line in the queue. He was the next in line. He was supposed to be the president, and of course, Trump knocked him out in the primaries.
What about Liz Cheney? Now, are they going to emerge? Are they going to sit there and they're going to steal the election before anybody can challenge it or do anything? Or are they going to emerge to retake the party?
Oh, I don't think they'll ever retake the party. I think if anything happens, as far as domestic,
party.
Well, the party will be gone.
Yeah.
Actually, I think the party will become the MAGA party, and I think that the Republicans will rue the day that they've destroyed themselves.
Well, you've got people that are still out there in play. Romney, Mitt Romney. I don't know. He's just.
Well,
he's Mitt.
There will always be rhinos. They're out there. You never know what they're out there. You mentioned it before, and it's true. The Democrats, they march in lockstep. They goose step together. They are one voice, whereas the Republicans, it's like herding kittens. Okay, you can't keep them in one spot.
Well,
they're all over the place.
They're marching to feelings tied to a Marxist leash, not a string. It's on a Marxist leash. And if you look at the person holding the leash right now, it is Kamala. All of her sayings go right back to Marxism. And that's what her daddy teaches. That's what her mama did. And that's what her sister does. So come on. How far from the tree did that apple fall?
I was thinking another thing that is really fascinating. A lot of the young people, especially those who were graduating from college like today, they weren't even alive on 9/11. They
No.
did not exist. They
So
have
it's not
no-
important to them.
Well, it's like ancient history to them. When they heard about 9/11, it was like when I was a kid hearing about Pearl Harbor. I wasn't alive during Pearl Harbor. I mean, I heard about it, but I got an honest description of what happened back in those days.
It was bad.
Nowadays, they kind of ignore it. Like, it was 9/11, and it was something, that buildings collapsed, and they were hit by what? But then they go on, do other things.
Look, you got a young generation out there. I got a son that's 21. I was out of town for a few weeks, and when I got back, I said, hey, let's go get something to eat. So I did, because, whatever, and we're talking, and, he's got conservative values. But, most of the kids, 18, 24, they're not Democrat, they're not conservative, they're just them. Now, they're being called stupid by Kamala, and they are pissed about that. And, they don't want to work. They don't want to get a job. Well, here's why they don't want to get a job. Now, my son works. He works every day. He's working now. The simple fact is, what he's bitching about, with a college degree, graduating with high honors, and everything else, what's he working for? Well, now some people might go, oh, that's good, $15 an hour. Well, yeah, no, when you look at the cost of things and where things are going, the American dream
and the job
is out of
numbers-
reach for them.
The job numbers just came out, and they're down again.
Yeah,
Bidenomics.
Bidenomics, and these kids are going, what am I working for? It is, I'm going to go nowhere. They, unlike us, we thought there was opportunity, and we went out there and put in our dues, and some of us made it, some of us didn't.
So do you think
they
that-
have no opportunity?
So do you think that Trump is naive to think that getting the message out to the people and getting them to vote won't be enough? That the corruption behind the scenes will steal the election no matter what?
Well, I think, number one, you have to get out the vote, and we have to vote in numbers and not let people sit there and go, it's not worth it. Because it's got to be not obvious to him. And he, if the election is stolen, he can't go, it was stolen. That's just, that's a broken record. But if the people go, wait a damn minute. I talked to Fred, and Fred talked to Jane, and Jane talked to Carlos, and we all voted for Trump. How come? And maybe what you need to do is reach out in your own little community and go and find 10 people and make a note. I talked to these 10 people, and this is how they're voting. And just see how it's going. And if everybody does that, keep track of what people are doing. Some people won't talk, but try to get an idea. You might get an idea of what really is going on.
If you're
And I think
listening, if you're listening to this show right now, I want you to do me a favor.
Go back to the beginning.
Don't do yourself a favor. Oh yeah, go back to the beginning. Listen, I want you to study up. We'll talk about this later on, maybe this coming week. I want you to learn about what's happening right now in Venezuela. Because Venezuela, the opposition party won by 30%.
Yeah.
30%. And Maduro says he won, and he's got the army on his side. And this is what worries me about what may happen here. What worries, will this, if it happens again and they steal it, and it's so obvious this time, will they bring the military against us?
Oh, definitely. Now, did Maduro leave the palace? But I haven't heard that he's still in charge or not in charge right now. As a matter of fact, there's kind of a silence going on. I haven't heard a whole lot.
Last I heard, he was being adamant, and that he had the military on his side. Now, you may have heard something I haven't heard,
Well,
but, he came out in the middle of the night and said, I won. Whether you like it or not, I won. And everybody knows. All of the votes were in. All of the exit polling had him losing by at least 30%.
yeah, I've got something I'll send you. Maduro has fled the palace, but I don't know how true that is. It's reported by somebody, so I will send that to you.
Well, does it mean that he's fleeing because he's abdicating, or does it mean that he's fleeing so that he's secure?
I would say the latter, because
Yeah.
the people are upset and have stormed the palace. They were partying in the streets and dancing. But just because he fled the palace, that thing can burn to the ground, and he can still control
Right.
the country with the military.
Yes, that's what I fear.
So I haven't heard anything about him advocating. But
I know the United States is recognizing the guy who really won it. It's not Maduro. The U.S.
for now, we're kind of like just whichever way the wind blows.
Blinken made a statement, public statement.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So anyway, we've done it again. Interesting show, typical Saturday program. Hey, if you want to contact us, go to our website, www.itsanotherday.com or www.jimandbill.com. You'll find all of our past shows and all of our contact info right there. It's been fun, my friend.
Yeah, it has been fun. And you know what? Until we meet again, I think Monday. Hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.